Well, we're getting ever so closer to the World Series. What's up, everybody? I'm Jim Rodriguez. Welcome to the Wednesday, the hump day here on Dodgers Latest. So happy you're part of us. Remember, you can always hit me up right there on X and on Instagram at JRodShow. And of course, can't thank you enough for following, subscribing, hitting those thumbs up buttons, share, tell everyone you know about it as we continue to grow the community, getting some great followers. The count keeps going up. And that's thanks to you as we're loving the content that we're making out for you. And we've got some comments for you today on the show. Yeah, we got some good stuff to share with you. So let's get after it as the Dodgers and Blue Jays get ready for the World Series Friday night Game 1 in Toronto. And much like we speculated and we talked about, it's going to be Blake Snell. Yeah, he's going to pitch Game 1 for the Dodgers. Blue Jays don't know as of yet. In fact, the Dodgers have announced that it'll be Blake Snell Game 1 and Yoshinobu Yamamoto will pitch Game 2. More likely, it'll be Glasnow Game 3 in LA and then Ohtani Game 4 at Dodger Stadium. And for Blake Snell, I mean, as well earned as it could possibly be, right? I mean, he has been absolutely magnificent, a masterclass in the postseason. 3-0 this postseason, 0.86 ERA. 7-3, by the way, now, career in the postseason for Blake Snell, an ERA of a little tick over 2.5. But it was what he did Game 1 against the Brewers, right? 8 scoreless, 1 hit, 10 strikeouts. Still, the stat that gets me is that he made 5 pitches out of the stretch in that game. Not 5 batters, 5 pitches out of the stretch. And, of course, he extended his own major league record. It was his 5th game in the postseason of 9 or more strikeouts and 2 or less hits. That 10 strikeout, 1 hit performance faced the minimum. He tied Don Larson for that mark, faced 24 batters over 8 innings, tied Don Larson for that record. And for Snell, it'll be interesting to see because as much as he's earned this start, as much as he's earned to be the Game 1 starter, Game 1 against the Brewers was October 13th. It's going to be 11 days in between starts for Blake Snell. Now, granted, he only made 11 regular season starts because of the shoulder injury that he had, so he's well rested. You just got to wonder how rested is rested. I mean, we saw him at the Laker game last night, right? Got a big ovation from everybody. Dodgers owner Mark Walters was there. But you only wonder how much rest is rest. Yamamoto is going to pitch on Sunday, he's going to pitch on Saturday. So he'll have the same thing. He'll have 11 days between rest. For Yamamoto, he's the kind of guy that's pitched all year. So you almost feel like he would embrace and enjoy it. Curious to see how Blake Snell reacts to that Game 1 start after having 11 days off in between starts. You keep yourself busy, et cetera, et cetera. Blue Jays have not announced yet. Maybe it'll be their kid, a starter who's made 6 starts in his whole life, right? 6 big league starts, and that'll be Trey Yesavage. That would be my bet to pitch Game 1 for the Blue Jays. Now, Dodgers still have some business to do. They have to construct a roster for this World Series. And my question is Tanner Scott on that roster? Would you want Tanner Scott on the World Series roster? It's a fascinating debate. Remember, he was on the wild card roster, didn't play, was removed from the division series roster because he had an abscess on the lower part of his body that got infected. So that had to be removed. So by doing that, he had to miss by law the league championship series, which he did. But now he's eligible to return for the World Series. Would you have him on there? I'd love to hear your comments on that. If he does make the roster and if he doesn't get into a game, it'll be his 3rd straight year in the postseason. 3 different teams, by the way. The Marlins, the Padres, and now the Dodgers. And you just got to wonder, after such a bad regular season, right? We know the numbers, 1-4, 4.7 ERA, had 23 saves, but he blew 10 of them. And you just felt like he was completely just defeated as an athlete, as a competitor. You got to wonder. I almost feel like you put him on there because who would you take off? And the 2 guys that I have sort of zeroed in on are Ben Kasparias and Jack Dreyer. Now, Kasparias is a right-hander. Tanner Scott's a left-hander, and I think that gives Tanner Scott a little bit of an advantage because he is a left-hander. Jack Dreyer is left-handed. Now, the Blue Jays have some left-handed figures that a guy like a Tanner Scott could go after. I'm not saying Tanner Scott's going to close games. That's Roki Sasaki. I'm not even saying he's an eighth inning guy. That's probably Blake Trinan at this point. I'm talking about a spot sixth, seventh inning against a tough left-hander like a Nathan Lukes, a Dalton Varsho, an Addison Barger, Andres Jimenez. Those are the kinds of situations who are left-handed batters that I think Tanner Scott could be effective against in a short burst in the World Series. And I think the question that the Dodgers need to answer is, would you prefer Jack Dreyer in that situation, or a guy who's, gotten big money as a closer and maybe has figured it out in a guy like Tanner Scott? I would have Tanner Scott on the roster. I know that that's nailed to the chalkboard, but again, I would have him in a different role. I wouldn't have him closing. I think that ship has sailed for now, and we'll readdress it in the winter, and we'll figure out what we're going to do in the offseason, because I don't think Roki Sasaki is going to be a closer next year. I think they're going to try to put Roki back in the starting rotation for the 2026 season. But for here and the now, I think you bring Tanner Scott on the roster and you make him as a left-handed specialist to face those guys like Lukes, Varsho, Barger, or Jimenez in that one. I'd love to hear what you got to say. You always hit me up right here at Dodgers Latest as well. Now, the ring is the thing, right? Right? One of these guys, right? And it looks like, yeah, look at that bad boy. It looks like the Dodgers and Blue Jays already know who's going to get rings for next year, right? We already know. It's going to be Buddy Kennedy and Jose Urena. They both played for the Dodgers and Blue Jays this season, so they are quote-unquote guaranteed a ring, right? For Buddy Kennedy, he played with 3 teams, the Phillies, the Dodgers, and the Blue Jays. He got into 2 games with the Blue Jays. He was 1 for 5 with a double and a run. And Buddy played 7 games for the Dodgers. He was 1 for 17 with an RBI. For Urena, he pitched for 5 teams in 2025. The Mets, the Blue Jays, the Dodgers, the Twins, and the Angels. He got into 2 games for the Blue Jays. And he started 2 games. Actually, got into 6 games. Started 2 games for them. Had an ERA of 3.65. Pitched a little over 12 innings for them. And he got into 2 games for the Dodgers. No starts, just relief appearances at 3 innings total for the Dodgers. So we know Buddy Kennedy and Jose Urena, regardless of who wins, it's going to get themselves a ring. Curious, right? It's always one of the funny stats about baseball for a player to have played on both teams during the regular season. All right, be part of the show. That's what we love to have you. We love your comments. We always encourage it. Hit me up here at X and Instagram at JRod Show, and of course in the comments section here on our YouTube page. And our first one we talked about is, I love this by Lawrence. Just realize that when the Dodgers win, I love the optimism, they will have beaten the last 2 teams to go back-to-back while going back-to-back, right? They beat the Phillies, who went back-to-back to the World Series in 08 and 09. In fact, the Dodgers tied the Phillies as the last defending champion to go back-to-back to the World Series. And, of course, the Blue Jays won back-to-back World Series a while ago, back when TV was in standard definition in 92 and 93. The Blue Jays were back-to-back world champions. So awesome little nugget there from Lawrence. And we talked about George Springer, right? He was the MVP of the 2017 World Series, got the Blue Jays into the World Series to face the Dodgers. So, mama, there's that man again. And, yeah, it's not the Astros, but this will have to do. Revenge for the Dodgers, right? Yeah, I love it. I think it's one of those things where if you're a Dodger fan, for as much as you try to put away 2017, because, it's been 8 years, the Dodgers, thankfully won their World Series. They won it in 2020. I guess it's been such a sort of therapeutic thing because, again, 2017, I'm still not over Game 5, right? Because I will say this. If there was any rigged thing or the Astros cheated, to me, there was no more reason than in Game 5, where every time the Dodgers took the lead, the Astros came right back. When Kershaw was really dealing in that playoff, they got it against Kenley Jansen. To me, Game 5 was as a big example of the Astros cheating as I've ever seen. I'll get you. They won it. They won the Game 7 on the road at Dodger Stadium. Yu Darvish was chipping his pitches, but the point is, Game 5 to me, that was always been my therapy moment in terms of how badly the Astros cheated and how the Dodgers were sort of cheated out of a championship. And again, the Dodgers got back to the World Series in 2018, were completely overmatched by the Red Sox. lost to the Nationals in 19, and we thought, oh boy, here we go. Then they win it in 20, right? But then there was it's the COVID, it's a Mickey Mouse ring, it doesn't really count. And then, rock bottom in 23, getting knocked out by the Diamondbacks. And then finally, sort of the release came in 24, full season, beat the Yankees, no controversies, but none of that. And now to go back-to-back in 25, to me, the Astros thing has already been washed. It's gone. I'm not hurting anymore, but boy, to be able to beat George Springer, who was the sort of face and leader, the MVP of that team in 17, that cheated the Dodgers out of a world championship, that would feel good. So that's another reason. And it all starts Friday night at Rogers Center. Game 1, Game 2, Friday and Saturday. Game 3 and 4 would be Monday and Tuesday at Dodger Stadium. Remember, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. All games start at that time. No funky 3 o'clock starts at Dodger Stadium anymore as we go to the postseason. Love that you're part of the show. Hit me up, J-Rod Show, X and Instagram, and of course right here on the YouTube page. Like, follow, subscribe, tell a friend, share, do everything you need. We love it. Getting closer to Game 1 of the World Series. Blake Snell on the mound. We'll see who the Blue Jays have to do. Enjoy the Wednesday. Getting so close. Dodgers hitting the bird. We'll have a workout in Toronto tomorrow, and then get ready for Friday night. I'm Jim Rodriguez, and as always, it's time for Dodger Baseball.